Welcome to episode 33 of Pop Kannon. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I am still Robert.
I'm Paul.
And I am Lieutenant Colonel Brian of the 4th Fusiliers. Chip, chip, cheerio.
He clicked his heels on that one.
We did. Today we are discussing a little film by Sam Mendes, 1917.
I believe it won the Golden Globe for Best Picture.
It did.
And it's also nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars.
As well as a fuckload of other
I believe
awards.
Sam Mendes is nominated for Best Original Screenplay and all sorts of stuff. So,
Director.
yeah,
I know,
definitely.
Director or Best Cinematography with Roger Deakins.
Honestly, I think it should win Best Cinematography.
Right?
So Roger Deakins has been nominated. I think he holds the record for the most nominations for a type of award and not without winning it. If he does not win for this, I don't know what the fuck he has to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he would have to go into space and literally film a fucking nebula birthing stars. I don't understand what the fuck else he could do, because this movie was fucking gorgeous. It's horrifying, but it's gorgeous, you know? Everything was shot beautifully, you know?
I think if he doesn't win this year, next year he will literally wrestle a bear and then he'll win. I think that's the rite of passage.
It's in the bylaws.
Now.
Yes, it's in the bylaws of the...
what's a bylaw?
The MPAA.
No, Leonardo DiCaprio wrestled a bear and didn't win.
Yeah, he did that already.
Truth.
He did that already.
But just getting back on track here, what was everyone's initial thoughts of the film?
I loved it. It was an experience, you know? Really... It's one of the most tense movies I've ever watched, and I think since A Quiet Place 2 years ago, the most tense movie experience that I've had since then. And prior to that was like Gravity, you know, back in 2013 or something. So it was just an excellent movie all around.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I feel like most people criticized it for the fact that it had like a weak story element, and you can argue about whether or not it did. But I mean, I wasn't really going into it expecting to delve deep into like a story. Kind of like when you see like a Godzilla movie. You know what I mean? You just go to see like fucking monsters fucking fight and shit. Well, this was just like, you know, I had read some reviews beforehand about the fact that it was shot to look like it was like one or I think two long takes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so this is gonna be sort of like an artsy sort of war movie, and then knowing that, I feel like it like delivered so fucking hard on that.
Yeah.
So it's just fucking good. I don't know.
That's definitely what my take on it was leaving the theater. I was blown away at the sheer amount of work that they put into it. And I just visually, it was fucking incredible. Incredible. And I don't know, some people like the one-shot deal, and some people think that it's like gimmicky, but also like if you could pull it off, why not?
Yeah.
And Sam Mendes, the director, had said like he only wanted you to know what the characters knew, and he didn't want you any further or any further ahead of them or far behind them. So it was kind of just their perspective, which I thought was brilliant, especially for a large world war that you'd only know what these two guys know and what they find out along the way. And I thought it was fucking immaculately done.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you guys. I literally got out of the theater maybe like an hour ago. Right. So it's still very fresh in my brain. And I loved it. It was a World War I film told on a very personal level, which I appreciated because I'm not like big into like the war movies and stuff like that, but just from a technical aspect, the decision to make it one continuous shot or make it appear to be that, it just kind of like made me appreciate the movie on a completely different level. And even though like, yeah, it's a very simple story, it was told in a way that made it seem way more important than it actually was.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. I loved
Yeah.
the sheer urgency and how Brian was saying it was very suspenseful. It was, and I love how, Robert, you were saying that it's told through their perspective and we never leave their perspective. And I think that's to the benefit of the film.
Yeah, because a lot of war movies will do like, you're in the general's tent or something like that, and you're dealing with high level information and all that stuff. But we got the reverse shot of that from the guys that get called into the tent to go do the thing while everybody else makes decisions.
Right.
And it was all to save 1,600 guys, and they had till daybreak the next day to do it.
Basically, yeah.
Which is just like, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
I want to go back to what you had said, like, Rob, about that. And I think Paul, you said this well. Like, some people complained about the one-shot take being a gimmick, and to be fair, it is. It is a gimmick, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. I think for the story that Sam Mendes wanted to tell, and the way he wanted to tell it, that this fit that perfectly.
It served the story.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to have done this movie without doing it as a one, put that in quote, one take shot. Because again, it's not, or a one shot take, because it's not obviously done in one shot. But
Right.
Yeah, right.
the way they did it, I thought it was perfect. I really did.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, was there any point that you guys thought it was obvious that they were just trying to mask a cutaway?
I had a few moments that I recognized.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had at least one. But, and I didn't think it was, like, bad or anything. I was just like, oh, okay. They're just trying to make it look like it's not a cutaway here.
Yeah.
For me, it was more of just knowing that it was, done in that style. It was more of just my curiosity, things like, oh, can I pick it out? Can I pick it out? And yeah, there were a couple moments where I was like, okay, but it wasn't like breaks. I'm like, oh, I'm leaving. Fuck this movie.
It wasn't jarring or anything.
No. I think for me, too, I went in, because I'm a video editor, I'm looking for those things. I'm looking to see where's a cut, where's this. And then probably about, like, halfway through the movie, I completely forgot. And because I got so engrossed in the story and the position of the camera versus, oh, well, let me see, like, where a cut would be.
The first one that I think I noticed was from the beginning of the film, right when they walk into the first trench. It's like a 5-minute or so shot from getting his order to getting his friend up and them walking down into the trench system. Right at that point, the camera backs up beyond the footpath a little bit, and somebody walks in front of it with a big bag.
Right.
Okay.
For me, that's cut number one.
And then I think the second cut was probably when they walk into the tent and things kind of go dark for just a split second.
Right.
Okay.
And that seems like an obvious place. But yeah, there are a few throughout the movie where you can easily, or maybe not easily, but you can see that it would be there. But I don't think it detracted at all.
No.
Especially once they went over the top and they were then in no man's land and on their their mission.
Yeah.
That shit just falls away and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Shit just starts like happening one after another after that.
For people who criticize the story or lack of story, I heartily disagree with that. There are some war movies that, like say Patton, where it's about a guy, or Saving Private Ryan, where yes, that's about a mission, but it's also about a battle at the beginning. this I thought was a really decent story. I thought, these two soldiers have a mission to do to save lives. One of them being, it's a very personal thing because one of the lives that's going to be saved is his brother. And I thought for a war movie, that's a pretty fucking good premise to get an audience to want to watch it,
Yeah, and I think
simple, but it works.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, they didn't go for there wasn't some sort of fucking conspiracy, and there weren't aliens, and
or,
you know what I mean,
or it wasn't telling the story of how this immense battle unfolded,
Right, it was just about save your brother, save those men who are also your brothers,
right?
And I thought that was awesome, and the daylight shots were so fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
There's so much of it stopped me in just awe of what I was seeing. But then the end of it, I mean, for the story being bare bones and skeleton, or however anybody wants to word that, I got choked up at the end.
Yeah,
it was emotional.
For sure, yeah.
Oh no, there are definite points even prior to the end where it had a very, very, very powerful emotional punch. But yeah, maybe we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Just talking about the shots, Robert, how you were saying you were taking it all in and how everything looked so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with just the sheer scale of the set design.
Yeah.
Specifically that point where he's going to cross the bridge on his own.
Oh my
Christ.
God.
Oh.
I'm just watching this and I'm seeing it all unfold, and I'm just completely pulled into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in that world and in that moment right then and there. I wasn't anywhere else. My brain wasn't thinking.
That's how it was when they go into that large crater.
Yes.
With the water in it.
Dude, for me the coolest part in him crossing that bridge is he gets fired upon, and finally there's an opponent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've sunk all this time, and there's a big emotional happening where his friend gets killed a little bit earlier, and then he's got to break off from this massive group of people that are stuck because paved roads and
and bridges
and bridges and he has to cross the bridge by himself, and then somebody fires on him, and you're like, holy shit, now there's he's fucked. He's totally fucked. There was such a...
Yeah.
It was such a great way to have all of this stuff happen before that and then pull you in further.
Yeah.
I feel at that point, it grabbed you by your neck and yanked you into the story because you're like, now I want to see this kid do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're here now.
Yeah,
We've got this far. And he's going to get just shot on this fucking bridge trying to cross it. That can't happen.
Right.
So you completely invest in that part of it. And I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I really like how that scene in particular illustrated two gunmen trading shots. You know what I mean? I feel in a lot of war movies, it's kind of people just firing and all that. You don't really get to see the fucking detail, of you fire, but if you're taking a shot, you're out of your cover as well. So you gotta you know what I mean, kind of try and psych them out and shit.
Yeah, there's strategy to it.
And there's a term for that. It's called the intimacy of war, where so many people think of war as just these massive battles, but really war a lot of times can come down to a guy going down an alleyway and a sniper trying to shoot him, or something like that. It's really weird, but it's really compelling,
Yeah.
And I liked that. I really liked in that sequence when he decides to go into that house because he has to kill that guy.
Right.
There's no option of just well, I'll run away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go kill this guy so I can continue, and it's gonna take me too long. It's gonna put me off fucking track, but I can't survive if I don't kill this person.
Exactly.
And then the tensity of going up the staircase with him, and then he pulls the door open. They're he's gonna be shooting you. So for me, it was just like the fact he didn't duck. He just opened the fucking door. Like, just speaks to the fact that like they're kids, and
he's on a
really
timetable.
he was on it. They're kids, and nobody won in that situation because he got knocked out and really thrown off course.
Yeah. Which, when he woke up from that, sent him into like a mass panic.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he didn't know what time it was.
Yeah, it could have been the next. It could have been the next night, and he
Yeah.
already missed his window.
Yeah, right.
So like the fear in being in that moment was so staggering.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, the whole thing was great, honestly. But I think like that first chunk of it, as they get up to that farmhouse where who you thought was the main character eventually dies.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I thought that was like the most incredible part of the film.
Oh,
But there's so much good after it.
making
But
their
I
way
just
through,
like
making their way through no man's land, and then the German trenches.
yeah. That was just so fucking tense because you just like you're expecting something.
Right.
You're expecting, and nothing. Not that nothing happens, but like a mouse is like the most. It was terrifying.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
okay, so real quick, what was everybody's favorite scene?
For me, it's easy. It's going across no man's land, across that crater that Brian had mentioned earlier, and with the water in it, and the seamless fucking transition of that camera from climbing that embankment to going over it to just crossing that water with zero ripples in it, and just like my jaw was on the floor. When that happened, I was looking around like, did everybody just see that? Yeah. Did everybody see that? Because that was incredible.
And so like that was also my favorite sequence was going through that. And I feel like people take camera movements like that for granted because people don't understand the amount of work that goes into a shot like that. I can't even imagine how long it took them to set that up and rehearse that and go through that.
The popcorn on my lap fired off of my lap. So,
But
There was a shot like that in a shot like that in Spielberg's War of the Worlds. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
yes. Oh my god, I love that fucking movie.
Where they're in where the family is in the minivan and they're on a highway and the camera is going through the minivan and then out and then taking a wide shot and then it's coming back in, and all of that was seamless, and I'm sure no one appreciated that either. But you know.
yeah. So when I see stuff like that, it pops me every time.
Yeah. Great filmmaking is great filmmaking, you know?
But going from that into like the tunnel system, where it showed the rats and everything, and then the one fell on the floor and started to drag that bag towards the tripwire.
Dude.
I held my breath. I was like, and then it exploded because I wasn't like, you have the expectation that like, okay, this movie's gonna go and it's just gonna be like a misstep, like they're gonna somehow get away from tripping that wire or something, but it doesn't happen, and all of a sudden they're blown to bits and Schofield is buried under rubble. And like that just caught me right off guard, but I loved it.
Yeah, that's that fucking, oh my god, nobody reaches out to grab the rat for fear of like rats and also spooking it. So rather let it just do what it wants to do. Maybe it'll turn around.
Right.
I think my favorite part may have been where he like fucking comes up to that fucking building on fire, and there's like a fucking rifleman that just comes out of the fucking darkness.
Right. And stands in front of the flames.
Yeah, like just that fucking whole sequence, and then him going into the finding that woman with the baby and all that shit. I feel like that was kind of like symbolic a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, like that whole thing was almost like a surreal, you know, sequence, like almost like he's going almost like through hell or purgatory or something. Like that's how
Yeah,
it came off
yeah.
to me. Like, and that he's eventually running. He's just running through
Yeah,
flames.
he left his
and
fucking gun. He
fire.
just ran.
Yeah, and through flames and other Germans firing at him, and yeah.
And not really knowing where he's going. He's just running.
He just knows that he has to make it to the river because that if
Right,
he makes it
but
to the
he just-
river,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the lighting in that sequence, like the bombed out city with the fires,
Oh my god.
the
Yeah,
ember
dude.
lighting, dude.
Yeah.
And like the flares
Unbelievable.
going off.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the fucking flares.
And also, at that point, it's fucking dark. But by the time he leaves, it's slowly dawning.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
sun is
It's
rising.
fucking
Right.
crazy. It looks so good.
Wow.
Moment of truth.
There are so many great scenes. I mean, when he's in the river, I just remember my hands were on my head because I'm like, just he's gonna hit a rock, you know, he's gonna get knocked out again or something like that. You know, the scene at the end where he meets Blake's brother was good. God,
Oh.
that was. I guess if I have to pick one, it's gonna be when Blake, the younger Blake, and Schofield they have made their way out of no man's land and out of the German trenches and even out of where the artillery was that the Germans destroyed. And it's before they get to the farmhouse, and they're just talking, and they tell a story about a guy who lost his ear, and then they talk about Schofield, how he won a medal or was awarded a medal for being in the Battle of the Somme, which was one of the biggest battles in World War I and one of the bloodiest. And that conversation I thought that was fucking great. How Schofield says, you know, I hated going home because I knew I had to come back, and how the medal was just a piece of tin and all that stuff. I just love that kind of conversation, and I thought both actors were really good in it. At that, you know, I thought they were both good in the whole thing, of course, but I thought that scene was really great.
Yeah. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I really liked the dialogue in the film throughout. None of it came off like, oh, somebody wrote that.
Yeah, it just sounded like two guys that don't really know each other, but they're just kind of
They're
like
trying to
familiar and
Yeah.
stay comfortable and loose rather than super serious.
Yeah, because Schofield at one point was like, "Why did you pick me for this?" Like, well, I thought I was just going to be a little messenger detail thing.
Yeah, he was like, I didn't know.
Oh, Tommen.
I know, right?
I know.
And then
Yeah, actually, you know what? I didn't realize he was Tommen until after I saw it.
same.
Really?
Same. I had to
Yeah.
look it up. I was like, why does he look so familiar?
That was
Yeah.
when I saw the trailer. I was like, "Hey!"
Yeah, that fucking baby face I've only seen one other place, man.
I guess the fact that he was blonde in Game of Thrones threw me off.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I did like more in that beginning half when they're going through the trenches, how the camera, dude, I couldn't believe it, man. The camera was in front of them watching their faces walk through the trenches. And then they would get into a big group where it was kind of a widened area, and the camera would kind of go to the side, and then it was behind them going through the other part of it. And it kept transitioning in that throughout that sequence, and I thought that was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't always in front of them, it wasn't always behind them, but they kept playing with in front and behind without making cuts.
Yep. It was
And
dynamic.
I thought that was, dude, oh my god, it led itself to the length of the trenches and how far into it they have to go to get to the guy that wants to give them a message. Like, that was so cool to me.
It almost reminded me of like 24 in the way that like you're with this person for a specific amount of time
Yeah, that's fair.
and it's not cutting away. So you're just kind of like living in real time with these guys.
Yeah. I do have one critique, and it's not the movie. I didn't have any issues with the movie itself. It's with the trailer. I wish they had not put basically the climax of the film in the trailer, as Schofield is so close to delivering his message to call off this attack, and the attack is happening behind him. The guys are going over, and the explosions are hitting. Because as you know, as much as the movie had me in there, that's in the back of my mind that's coming. And I just wish they hadn't done. I know it makes for a really compelling trailer that you got this guy running on this green grass, and you see guys coming over the trench, and all these soldiers are coming up, and there's explosions, and then it goes into the numbers 1917. But they shouldn't have done that. They really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I agree. Thinking about it now, like that's one of the most. I feel like that's like the scene of the movie that like encompasses the movie right there.
Yeah,
because he like can't get through the trench fast enough, so he's like, fuck this,
fuck
it. It's so fucking awesome, that scene. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that.
Yeah. And every fucking person he meets on the way, where's General so and so? Oh, he's another 15 fucking minutes that way. God damn it.
Oh, he's in Belgium. You'll have to go to Belgium.
And the kid just gets up, he runs underneath a plane. Yeah.
Now, I will say one thing that the trailer set me up for that I'm glad didn't happen in the movie was that you see in the trailer, you see Benedict Cumberbatch saying, "There's only one way this war ends: last man standing." And then earlier, and then in the film, after Blake is killed at the farmhouse, Mark Strong's character and his convoy shows up, and Mark Strong says to Schofield, like, Colonel Mackenzie, make sure there are people around when you give him these news.
Yeah.
You give him this message, because intimating that if there's no one else around, he'll just keep attacking, because there are military leaders like that who will just be like, "Oh, fuck the orders, we're gonna attack." And when
I like a good fight,
yeah, especially when you're not the one doing it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. When you can order people to do it.
I'm very safe in this labyrinth of trenches.
But yeah, and then when he gets there and the way that scene starts to play, I'm like, oh fuck, it's gonna be for naught. He's really gonna ignore the fucking orders, and then he doesn't, and he follows the orders. I was like, oh fucking thank Christ,
Yeah.
And so I thought that was an interesting. I don't know if that was intentional in the trailer, but that was definitely something that the trailer kind of set me up for, and then paid that off.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I have any straight up issues with the film because it's so fresh in my brain. I'd have to like think on it some more. There was like a point towards the middle, I think, where I started to like, oh well, how much time is left? Like I kind of have to go to the bathroom. But then it picked right back up for me, and it didn't lull anymore after that.
It had to have that, like if you're talking about the middle, like when the burnt out town, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, it had to have that, because then it had to pick up for him running through the town being shot at, then jumping into the river, and then having that, then again that another lull right before the assault started.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I understand that. Yeah. I'm just saying, like from a viewing perspective, first time seeing that lull, I kind of like dipped down, but I understand the point of it was to get me back up.
No, it's really cool because I actually kind of wish. I mean, I'm glad I saw it when it came out, but I kind of wish I had seen it again more, close to us recording today, just so it would have been, another viewing fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's also the guy singing the song, like when he finally arrives at that point in the woods.
Yeah.
Before he sets off on his just mad sprint across the trenches. I thought that scene was like perfectly placed to just like give you one more like
yeah,
before going balls out again.
Yep.
And the camera work in that, like capturing their faces.
Yeah.
In that like seamless movement across the ground as they're all sitting there listening. 'Cause like you could tell some of them like don't care about him singing a song, but they're all just like, well, we're fucking here, and this might be the last thing that we ever do that we enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so they all have these faces on, like, yeah, this is where we're at, and he just kind of like slumps up against the tree and realizes he's in the right group of people.
Yeah.
Nobody asks a question; he just shows up.
Yeah.
You know, like if he had a weapon, they'd all be dead.
Right.
But nobody even fucking looks at him, and they're just like, oh, he's probably real tired too. Like, we're fucking exhausted because they're children.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. They are all very young men. Yeah, I don't, other than, like I said, the trail, I don't have any critiques. I think this was just an amazing film. I really liked all the casting decisions too. I thought, they're basically cameos, but they got these British actors who come from just have great resumes. You got Benedict Cumberbatch, you've got Mark Strong, you've got Colin Firth, and I can't remember the name. I can never remember his name, but he played Moriarty in the Sherlock Holmes.
Yes,
BBC.
dude, I
in
noted
it.
him.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just a lot of great actors in it, and of course the two main characters. I thought they portrayed those two characters great.
Dude, the kid that played Schofield was great.
Yeah. Schofield, George McKay.
Yes.
He was in this Hulu show.
Is that the 11/22/60?
Yes, he was. It's 11/22/63 with James
that's
Franco.
Stephen King. Okay.
Oh, okay.
He was phenomenal in that show, and I didn't even connect it because his character was so different.
But yeah, he was phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah, I thought everyone was really good.
I love how the movie starts with him leaning against a tree and ends with him leaning against a tree. I thought that was great.
Yeah, me too. Paul, do you have any issues with the film?
No. The only thing it would be those like glaring, they're cutting away, but not making it look like it's not cutting away, sort of thing.
Okay.
But other than that, like I really can't think of a single thing to say.
I think that World War I doesn't get a lot of attention. It's over 100 years ago, and things like that start to fade from popular culture. I just want to say first, I think this was great that it's a movie that looks at World War I. There haven't been many huge release movies that do that. Mostly it's World War II that gets the attention, and I get it because it was more recent. And
yeah, it was all sexy. And
well, to be fair, it's kind of a more easy to understand war. You have Hitler and Germany were evil, and we had to fight them. And there was
right. It wasn't about the Allied forces falling in because of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
World War I was complicated as fuck. And so
treaties, man, fucking treaties.
And so it's hard to make a movie that's going to be a wide release that you hope will appeal to a wide range of people. But I think this was done just the right way, and I'm glad that it's getting attention, and not only getting attention, but possibly going to win Best Picture, and I hope it does. But yeah, I thought it was a great fucking movie. I do use the term masterpiece. I really do think it is a masterpiece. I think Sam Mendes should win Best Director for it, and if fucking Roger Deakins doesn't win for Best Cinematography, I don't know what the fucking Academy's doing.
They rehearsed this and measured it out over 6 months.
Yeah.
Before
Jesus.
filming.
Wow.
So Jordan was curious about the amount of time that they put into it to get all of those things right. They had to, the director and the cinematographer went to wherever this was actually filmed.
Yeah.
And they laid flags down, and they just had they were sticking flags in the ground, okay, here, a few steps more here, and they measured out where they had to dig for the trenches, because they all of that stuff was built.
Yeah. Oh, that it looked like it was too. I know that CG can do a lot.
I think they dug out a full mile worth of tunnel.
Yeah, I think it was over 1.5 miles of trench work that they dug, and then they had to set up that city with when you think about soundstage houses where it's just or a Western where it's just the facade and then the two things holding it up on the a lot of those houses were that, but the fucking the sheer amount of pre-production work to get to principal photography is insane for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's unbelievable.
Half a
dude.
year just spent rehearsing.
Like, so those two kids are just walking with probably the scripts in their hands, just running lines back and forth, trying to figure it out. And then they add all of that military equipment onto them. And they're like, all right, now do that.
I also want to say, I thought that I think it's a really smart movie. It's a really intelligent movie in that it doesn't bash you over the head with some things. Like, there's things you can just infer, about the way that World War I was, that they were walking down a trench the wrong way and that you weren't supposed to do that. And you could tell, like, guys were getting pissed off as they were going the wrong way, and accidentally bumping, maybe a wounded guy. And, there's an altercation, shit like that. Like, and as they're making their way through no man's land, you just, all the dead things that are in the mud, and
they were like, go to the dead horse,
right?
Make a right left at the dead horse, and then when you see the bent over guy, you know that you've reached a certain point. And then as we're going through it, I'm like, there's the dead horse, there's the bent over guy.
When you get to the pile of intestines, what you want to do is you want to just crawl through that.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. No, yeah. I thought it was just so fucking well done. I mean, Christ, when he gets on the river and he just ends up at, again, another pile of dead bodies.
Oh my God!
Damn it!
Crawling out of the dead body pile in the river.
And they're
fucking disgusting.
And
there's
up and shit.
Yeah. Oh. And there's no point at which I'm like, well, that doesn't look real. There's no point. I'm buying into all of it. I'm just like, this is all horrifying and disgusting, and Christ, I feel for him,
And then he just openly weeps.
Yeah.
Which was great. That was the first point in that film where he broke.
It's been a day.
Yeah.
He had a day.
But also, like, in his brain, he's thinking, well, it's over. I'm late. I'm too late.
Yeah.
Dude, when Blake is stabbed by the fucking German guy because he wouldn't just put him out of his misery, like his friend had suggested.
Yeah.
And he's like, go get him some water. And I was just like, son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Yeah. And then somehow, I don't know how they did it in the way that they filmed the movie, but they made his face go white.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know how they did that, but yeah, I noticed that too. And
unless they just did it digitally after the fact, but it was like, it was so gradual.
And I have to think pretty realistic when you're losing that much blood,
Yeah, because his friend at some point, Schofield was like, it's merely a flesh wound.
Get up, we gotta go. I think that was the most emotional point in the film for me.
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
We gotta stand up, and then he tries to, like, physically just pick him up, and he can't.
Yeah. Oh, that was heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
But it was But honestly, though, it was really cool seeing that dog fight happen, but, like, from that perspective.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, we got him."
Actually, I do want to say something, because we do normally cover, like, at least bring up music, and I thought the soundtrack actually was really good for what it was, in that it never really establishes any sort of, like, theme, or it does exactly what it's supposed to. It's just there, it's in the background, and it's, it really ramps up. I remember it really ramped up when he's running through the bombed out town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just, but even like when they were going through the no man's land and trenches, it's just there in the background, kind of just really ominous. I thought it was a really good score.
Yeah, no, it never was overwhelming or overbearing. It served, like, just like everything in this film, it served the story.
Yeah. I will say that there were a couple moments where I was like, it did remind me of what Hans Zimmer did with Dunkirk, in that some of the beats almost sounded like a ticking clock, and given the story, that makes sense. But it did kind of make me think of that.
Well, I think, weren't they kind of using that in the trailer? There was like a ticking to it.
They might have, yeah, but they definitely did. I could have
swore that was Yeah, I could have swore that was part of the trailers. Was the
Yeah.
And
Because it
makes
just
sense.
establishes like a sense of urgency.
Absolutely.
yeah.
But yeah, no. What I'm saying is it definitely worked.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Paul, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, again, so beautiful cinematography. What?
You what, mate? Final thoughts for me is just like I've now seen 2 war movies in the last 3 or 4 years now, and they've both been fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a genre that I'm like suddenly into, but these 2 movies have there's no argument to make that I don't know how somebody watched this and was like, that fucking sucked. Like how?
Yeah.
How were you not pulled in by that?
It lost me early on, and
Yeah, I
just
don't
was
know
checking
if
my
I believe
phone.
that the kid seemed too young. You know what I mean? Like who the fuck didn't like this movie? I don't understand. And I do hope it wins Best Picture. I'm pulling for it because I saw it, and we covered it here, so I definitely want it to win.
I have to say, like, I think I'll probably watch it again at some point, but I don't know if it's one of those movies that I could watch over and over. Like I mentioned Patton earlier. Patton's a movie that I can watch over and over again, and it's mostly because of George C. Scott and his great performance. But it's also, I think it's a decent war movie. Glory's a movie I can watch over and over. But I don't know about this one.
I think it's an experience.
It is.
Like this was go see it in the theater.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it in the theater, I hope your setup at home is like good and you
Right.
pay attention.
Yeah.
Because if you like, this isn't a movie that you just like throw on. Like I hope in 3 years this isn't on TNT.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With like fucking commercial breaks and shit. 'Cause why would you bother? You know, it's like, this airing of 1917 is brought to you by the fucking the Toyota Tundra. Like it doesn't make sense. You have to watch it all the way through.
And then when it comes back to the movie, the fucking bomb goes off from the rat, like right after that, like, whoa,
How the
shit, what is?
That actually brings a really good point. Like, where the fuck do you put commercials?
Yeah.
Where would you put a fucking commercial break? It would have to be one of those things where they would air it, and it would be with limited commercial interruption, sponsored by something, and they would cut it like halfway through when he gets shot in the house, and that's when they take the commercial break for like 10 minutes, and then they come back. Yeah.
Grab yourself a Coors Light. Rocky Mountain Cold. You know, like why the fuck would you do that? Like you can't do that with this.
Yeah.
It would just completely take away from it. I don't know. Like, I mean, it depends on if how I'm feeling. But I haven't bought Dunkirk on Blu-ray.
Yeah, neither have I.
But I like that movie.
I did too. Yeah.
Like I don't know if I would purchase this for home viewing, but like it's one of those movies that like you should see it. It's a fucking masterpiece. Yeah. But it's not one of those things that like, yeah, why don't we throw on 1917? You guys bored on Saturday? You know, it's not one of those movies.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's an experience. It's not like an entertainment value thing. You know, you're learning something or you're watching something to get to a point. You're not like, oh, fuck, I love that character. You know what I mean? Nobody's like, man, Schofield, he was really, he pulled me back to the film. I want to watch it again and again because he was funny sometimes.
Yeah.
So final thoughts for me, like you guys said, like I don't know if I'd rewatch this film, but I would definitely be interested to watch like the making of a film like this. Like I'm more interested in the technical aspect of this movie and the cinematography and the direction and stuff like that than I was.
It might be worth
story.
it to own. It might be worth it to own then for special features on this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as the story goes, like, yeah, it was cool and it was simple and stuff like that, and it did have some weight to it and some seriousness. But like, from a technical standpoint and like just a filmmaking experience, I feel like anyone who's interested in film, like the industry and like making movies and stuff like that and editing, I can't express how you should see this film. so you could
Definitely.
like take it in and appreciate it. Definitely, if you're like interested in making films, go out of your way to see this in theaters.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sure if I would be interested in watching the movie again on like Blu-ray, like at home or whatever, or like if I'm on Netflix or whatever, but definitely for like a bonus features situation, I'm interested in coming back to this.
Jordan and Paul, I'm curious, were you able to see it in IMAX?
No.
No, I just saw it in a regular Cinemark theater.
Then that's what Rob and I did as well. I know that it now is in some IMAX theaters, and that's one of the things that I was really hoping the theater around here that I like to go to would get it, and it did not, or at least hasn't yet. I'm hoping that maybe if it wins Best Picture, they'll put it back out into IMAX theaters.
Yeah.
Once it is, I definitely will see it again, because that's a whole different thing. Is seeing it
Yeah,
in an
yeah.
IMAX
Yeah.
is a much more interesting experience. So I definitely will see that again if it does that.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right, so this has been episode 33 of Pop Cannon. We reviewed 1917. Let us know what you thought.
Decent year, you know.
As always, I'm Jordan.
I am Robert.
It's Paul here.
And I'm Brian.
Ringo.
Ringo.
Oh, hey mate, what you doing? I'm gonna go down to the lorry and get in the tube and eat some fish and chips on the telly.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform.
Bob's your bloody uncle.
I don't know how many listens we get overseas, but I don't think any of them are gonna be coming from the UK anymore.
Oh, I bloody love podcasts. I bloody love podcasting.